So it's a big welcome to Rob, to the Amigos, and he is going to be doing the music reviews. He's taken over from Warrington Minge, whose reign was short-lived. And Rob, before I start asking you about your review this week, I just want to know, who do you support?
I support Heart of Midlothian, Hearts.
There's a lot. Fantastic.
Yeah,
so the big question is, how is Garan Kual doing, our young protege?
Could have scored 4 goals, but hasn't scored any. But his awareness, his pace is unbelievable. He's going to be a cult figure, I think so. Yeah. He's going to score goals for us. His pace and awareness is outstanding. So I mean, there's gaps just now with some injuries and that, but he's come on board. He played at the weekend there. His pace is outstanding. His awareness is outstanding. But, he's just started, so all positive.
All positive so far. So I think that's what we'll do. We'll keep going here for a little bit of an update on Garan Kual's progress as well, as we'll have you on. But we've been chatting for the last few weeks and talking about what album you were going to start with on the very first Rob's album review section, and you've gone for a classic.
Yeah.
And that's it, hanging behind you there. I can see it.
Hanging behind me, and here. The one behind me, American version on Warner. This one's UK pressing. Original from 1977, not a reissue I've got.
Fantastic. Never mind the bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols, and that's adorned many T-shirts, I am sure, over the years as well. But give us your review, Rob.
Firstly, it's an album that I think a lot of people will remember or being aware of it at the time, but a lot of people couldn't buy it. I think W.H. Smith and Woolworths sold it. I think they were the only sort of retail high street shops that were selling it. A lot of people had brown bags over the cover because of it. What I find interesting is, which nobody seems to pick up on, is the cover itself. Now, to me, those colours I'd associate with the 80s. Bright, luminous, okay? Malcolm McLaren's instructions were, make it look as ugly as you can. So there you go. So the brightness, the threatening, how the Sex Pistols, it looks like one of the threatening letters you would get with cut out bits of paper from the newspaper sort of thing. Again, never mind the bollocks. Allegedly, that was the guitarist Steve Jones's friend who used to sell newspapers at Leicester Square. He would just stand and blather and you say, hey, what's up, what's happening? He'd say, a bit gossip. He's like, never mind the bollocks, never mind that fuss, just forget about it. So allegedly, that's where it came from. Never mind the bollocks. It was recorded at Wessex Studio between 76 and 1977. I've done a wee bit of research, but the research I've done is what I know myself without Google, reading books and such likes, because of the timescales. Malcolm McLaren wanted punk to come over. The Ramones were happening, CBGB's, New York Dolls, in the States. So he wanted to bring it over here. That's how it kicked off. So I mean, there's songs on here, like one called New York, which is basically ripping the out of the New York Dolls. Pretty Vacant, again, a single that was on the album. There was 4 singles of it: Holidays in the Sun, Anarchy, Pretty Vacant, God Save the Queen. Now, God Save the Queen, obviously, I'm not sure if people know, 1977 is Queen's Jubilee. That got beat that year. I think it was the only year in musical chart history that I'm aware of. The chart ended at number 1. There wasn't a number 2. Number 1 was First Cut as the Deepest by Rod Stewart. Number 2 was God Save the Queen. Quite a rare album. It was anti-establishment, that sort of thing. Again, on this album, you've got Anarchy in UK, Bodies. I will not discuss what Bodies is about. Pretty vacant. Even the lyrics in that was the only song Pistols ever done on Top of the Pops. Pretty vacant. The last 4 words he changed on Top of the Pops till the BBC, etc. got on top of it and like, we can't have this. This is terrible. 1977. Can't do these things. EMI, unlimited edition. They got £75,000 for signing for an hour. The company went to A&M. After that, they've done the signing for EMI outside Buckingham Palace. During the recording of the album, Malcolm McLaren wanted it to sound awful. He wanted it to sound trashy. Now, I hear in the Wessex Studios, I think it's Highbury. Even wanted the carpets lifted. So when they done the drum tracks down, they had ambience mics at the end of the hall to make it sound like bins crashing, bin lids, and just an absolute shambles. The thing I find strange as well is, I do believe that Malcolm McLaren, Vivienne Westwood, especially Malcolm McLaren, was, I say, Simon Cowell is now the modern version of him, just puppet master of bands. Said it was his band, he said it was this band, and he was in control of it, but he wasn't. He said the people who can't play are better than the band that can play. What I think that is bollocks. I think Steve Jones is an absolutely outstanding guitarist. I think John Lydon, he's snarly. John Rotten was his name. He got that name because of his teeth, the state of his teeth, because they were rotten. Again, they're from images. It's like Sid, it's John Simon Ritchie, Sid Vicious. He was named after John Lydon's pet hamster called Vicious. Again, on this album, never mind the bollocks, Sid only plays on one of the tracks. Glenn Matlock was the original bass player. Left the band, allegedly he was washing too much, or he liked the Beatles. So he got kicked out of the band, or he left the band for those reasons. Sid came along. He was John's friend. He wanted to be in the band. And he looked the part. He started the pogo. Sid used to go over. Sid originally was a drummer from Siouxsie and the Banshees. When Sid was at concerts, he couldn't watch the bands in front of him, so he put his hands on the shoulders, whoever's in front of him, jump up and down, as we now call it, the pogo. Things still happen now, concerts. The fashions are still the same. You look far back as the Ramones ripped jeans, Converse trainers. What are the kids wearing just now? So it all comes from there, sort of the New York scene. So Sid couldn't play the bass at all. He looked good on stage, and he became a part of the pantomime, and he became look at Sid, he'll do this, he'll do that, and he became too much of his own worst enemy. Steve Jones, the guitarist, played the bass. I think Anarchy in the UK was the only song Glenn Matlock played on. He left, Sid came in, done Bodies, and Steve Jones took over and laid down all the bass tracks on it. So Steve Jones has done all the bass tracks on it. Obviously, when they're playing live, Sid was playing live, but just as if you ever watch any rare stuff, you'll just see Sid jumping up and down. But again, another song on this, a song called 17, which is on as well. Allegedly, it was written about Sid. You're only 17. There's a song that I'm a lazy sod, and at the end of it, he says, I'm a lazy Sid. So there's just little references, problems. Again, about McLaren, Pretty Vacant, Body, Holidays in the Sun. That's the opening song for this album. You hear the military marching the footsteps, cheap holidays and other people's miseries. It was political at the time. It was, your housing scheme is going to be a shopping scheme, and that's what happens nowadays. And it's what's happened has been true. All these places have been shut down, and it's shopping malls everywhere, that sort of thing. But a minute, Steve, you'll have to edit.
No, don't worry. From your perspective, what's your favourite song on the album?
My favourite song on the album is New York. an imitation of From New York. So to me, I take from that, it's the most melodic song. And I think my personal guess is it's John Lydon having a dig again at Malcolm McLaren, trying to manipulate them into being this sort of thing. You know, Sex Pistols, he called them young sex assassins, and you know, he's pistol as a weapon, sex sells. Him and Vivienne Westwood had the shop Kings Road called Sex. So yeah, New York, an imitation from New York, which is where Malcolm McLaren got the idea to bring punk over into the UK from the New York Dolls. The song New York is outstanding. The bass lines are cracking. It's very rhythmic. The drumming is brilliant. I mean, I'm a drummer myself. Paul Cook is very underrated. It's back to basics, does his fills, but his timing is impeccable. To me, as a good drummer, you're not aware of a drummer playing on the record because it's like metronome thing. It's just a bang, bang, bang. So you're not aware of it. It's just leading everything. But it's just outstanding. Again, the vocals, snarly, sneery. You know, Lydon got the job. He put the song in the jukebox. I think the song was called 1617 by, I think it was an Alice Cooper song.
Yeah.
And he put the song on, and he said, go and just mind to that. So he started doing the snarl, jumping about, looking like he was taking fits, sort of thing. And everyone said, oh, that's good what you're doing. And he didn't know what he was doing, but it was just how he felt. That's how he acted, and that's how he is. That's his persona at the time. So that's, you know, again, Malcolm McLaren, you know, you got to be a singer, basically, more or less. I mean, again, there's that many documentaries about them. We don't know what to believe, what not to believe. But, you know, obviously the late Malcolm McLaren, he's back in Highbury, where he's laid to rest. But,
yeah. And just, you know, let's talk a little just about the effect that punk had. It was short-lived, didn't it? But it changed music forever, didn't it, Rob?
It absolutely did. I mean, a lot of it was, I mean, now we call it fashion with the ripped jeans, but back then it was poverty. But there was one thing the Pistols said was people started having a kit, you know, it's like a uniform, like wear the studs, wear the safety pins. But I mean, I remember it in the 70s, you know, Mum, my zips away, and I would get a safety pin to hold my zip up so I could afford new ones. That's what happened. So it was a lot about what was happening in the country at the time. Poverty, you know, the winter discontent, that side of it. The, you know, back at school, you're a kid, you're not important, I'm a teacher, I am, sort of attitude. But even again, influences. I mean, if you think about it, Green Day, all these bands, a lot of bands. One of the biggest influences of the album is by Nirvana. Now, can you remember what Nirvana's first album was called? Nevermind.
Yeah.
So again, what's it? 40 years, 45 years now.
Yeah.
45 years now. I mean, I listened to it again today. I mean, the one I've got is original from '77, UK press, and this sounds amazing. As soon as you put it on, it takes you back, place and time. You know, it was a grey time. It was bleak. It was, you know, you had the music, you had. It was a good. Well, it wasn't a good time, but look what's come out of. Look what's come out of it, and obviously John Lydon's done his, unfortunately, for Eurovision. But yeah, and it's just an outstanding album. If you just look at it, you know, how iconic is that? You know, imagine going to Woolworths or, you know, back then, and it had like a brown bag over it because
of the title. Yeah,
they went to court because of it, because it is an English dictionary, the word here.
Yeah.
Again, they got banned from Britain. I'm not sure if they played Scotland. I'm not 100% sure, but
didn't play Newcastle. In that time, I don't think. I'm sure it was banned. I'm sure they got banned from Newcastle because they had the tour, and there's that infamous photo of the bus, isn't there, with going nowhere on the front of it.
Yeah, and that was the same bus used in America when they went to the States when it all went belly up. But you know, obviously after that, then two of them left. and ended up doing a single with Ronnie Biggs, which was an absolutely brilliant song. I think that was in Brazil.
No One Is Innocent.
That's the one. Absolutely great song. Brilliant song. Again, that's noted clearly on documentaries. But because of it, I mean, they've got bands. I mean, they've done a lot of charity work. They've done for the fire service and miners concert. They've done that. They put on that for free. They were giving away freebies, T-shirts. They've done a live concert for the firemen for Christmas because people couldn't afford anything. So it says, here's something for the community and that. And again, there's footage of that. But they actually had to play under a name of Spots, which was Sex Pistols on tour secretly. Which, they were doing that. They were playing prisons. That's what they were doing. I don't know why, but there was congregations all over the UK about they're not playing here. All the local councillors were having the megaphones out, ban this band from here, and again, even God Save the Queen, they got banned, so they went on the Thames, the famous the River Thames thing. Again, I think Shane MacGowan was there. And,
Richard Branson was there.
That's the one, yeah. He got huckled as soon as he came off. Yeah, that was it as well. Yep, and obviously started his Virgin Records.
Amazing! It's an amazing stuff, and it's an amazing story. I think the thing that I really found surprising as I grew older, and I fell in love with the Sex Pistols when I was a young lad at college, 16, 17 in Newcastle, was that there was only one album, and it was we had the Great Rock and Roll Swindle, etc. But literally was only the album. Never mind the bollocks, and it always felt, obviously, because Steve and Pete went on and did the Swindle, did a few extra songs. I mean, I loved Lonely Boy on the Swindle record, etc. But ultimately, it was all about the one record, and it was just the everything that surrounded it. But it's iconic. It's iconic because of the way it looks. They've got some iconic tracks. It's a great track list. I think there's one or two, for me, there is one or two weak tracks on there. But ultimately for me, it's an album that I love. It was part of my childhood, and it is very, very influential. Anything else you want to say about it, Rob, before we finish off?
It's just, again, like you say, you've hit the nail on the head. There's maybe like one or two that are, again, personal choice. But you put it on, it's one of those albums you have to play in its entirety. You can't just listen to that song today. It's one of those albums. It's perhaps 40, I think it's 45 years old. Absolutely outstanding. Stood the test of time. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Well, it's a great one to start with, Rob. We're going to have you on each week, reviewing albums and picking out some absolute classics, mate. It's been a pleasure to do Never Mind the Bollocks with you for the first one. We'll look forward to having you on again, mate. Take care, Rob.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you.